Welcome back to Raised by Giants Illuminated Insights discussion. We are live. Welcome everyone in the chat. Good to see you guys and any moderators out there. We have an amazing discussion for you guys here today with co-host Ryan Gable, but a reminder that super chats and super stickers are available, and any super chat will be read out live during the show. Also, PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description as well and are a great way to help support the show. Couldn't do this without your guys' support, and a huge thank you to everyone that's helped support so far. So this evening we have with us author, veteran, radio personality, and producer of the show, The Secret Teachings, that I met at Contact in the Desert this year, Ryan Gable. Welcome to the show, brother. How's it going, my friend?
It's going pretty good, as well as can be. It's really nice to be here on your show. You were on mine recently, and we had a really good conversation.
Yeah, I was just on there a few weeks back, and if people caught that, you've been really doing this for a long time. You told me before we started the show that you've been doing this for 12 years now, I think you said. And I really want to get what your experience has been with this community and how your perspective on certain topics and ideas have changed things throughout the years, because you've seen a lot of things come and go and a lot of people come and go. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll try to keep it relatively simple. I've been doing this for, I'd say professionally, about 8 years, but I've been doing radio since 2009, 2010. So it's way over a decade, 13, going on 14 years. And yes, I have seen a lot of stuff. When I first began radio, it was a volunteer gig, and I didn't know anything about anything. And so I initially just kind of talked about things that were interesting. I didn't really know what was real, what was not real, what's a conspiracy, what's a theory, what's a conspiracy theory. I didn't know anything about anything. I just did whatever was interesting to talk about. And then over the years, I read a lot of books and interviewed a lot of people, and I started to get more professional at what I did, and I started to make connections, and I went to events, conferences, things like that. And I started to notice that even in the so-called alternative communities, or in alternative radio, alternative podcasting, whatever you want to call it, whatever community or whatever term you want to apply, that people there are just as biased and just as subjective as people that follow the mainstream of anything. And that really kind of wowed me. And it wasn't just political things, it was things dealing with UFOs and dealing with conspiracy theories. And so I took a step back from all of that, from every side of every angle of every subject. And I really thought a process that probably took about 2 years of processing it in order for it to really turn into something of value for me. And I realized, okay, so a lot of the stuff that we think is, the mainline viewpoints on everything is obviously not accurate. So that doesn't mean the alternative is always accurate. So I really started to study psychology and like fallacies and try to understand how all that works. And I use fallacies a lot on my show now. I use them as a grounding point, a base point to try to figure out what's really going on. So long story short, to summarize very briefly and very quickly, 13 years later from when I started, I've come to the conclusion that there is as much disinformation, misinformation, wackadoo, ignorance, and arrogance in the alternative world as there is in the mainstream world. And there are very, very few places you can go, and very few people, authors, journalists, speakers, etc., very few people who have a grounded perspective and are able to have a conversation without trying to push some other alternative or independent or some crazy wackadoo theory. So I guess simply to answer your question, as you take note of the fact that, people that watch certain mainline news have their own biases, but people that watch certain alternative news have their own biases. But then you get into the world of like the alternative of the alternative. I don't know if you'd call it new age or whatever term, again, we want to apply to it, but you get into that world and you start to realize these people are just like everybody else. Nobody has the answer to everything. We don't have the solutions. And the best thing to do is just have conversations and point out inconsistencies about interesting topics and see where that information leads us. And so that's where I've gone full circle over the last 13 or so years.
And it's weird because I'm at that exact same position you're in, just only 3 years into it, right? And I believe it's very clear that the more you dig into these topics and the more nonsense and hypocrisy that you find, right? And the more
Yes, yes.
you have to use mental gymnastics to make sense of it, right? And it's like you said, it's all filled with fallacies and lies and conjecture. And it seems like a blatant way to confuse everyone and divide them.
Yes, yes. I think, I mean, UFOs is a really great example. So for example, I'll give you my opinion on the UFO issue very quickly. I personally agree with Carl Jung. I think that UFOs largely are a psychic phenomena, and I think that we are manifesting them. That doesn't mean that there aren't physical things, but I think we are manifesting them in pop culture. It's a new mythology. It's something that we can understand today with the ideas of space travel and, spaceships and things like this. So it's a new mythology. It's a modern myth, and it's something that, again, that doesn't mean it's not real, but it's not secret space programs that are run by crazy people on YouTube that have secret information every week. But there probably is a secret space program, and likewise, every UFO you see in the sky probably isn't an alien spaceship, but some of them might be things that really are truly unidentifiable. And that's the only way we're going to get to any kind of, real substance, is if we take a balanced, objective, as objective as possible approach to topics like that. And I'll tell you what, the reason I bring this up as an example is because when I was at Contact this year, I told a few people, I said, I just feel like UFOs are kind of like a psychic phenomenon. And I said, that's not my opinion. That Carl Jung said that years ago, decades ago, wrote a book on it. And oh my God, the reaction I got from people was just like, I killed their savior. I killed Jesus Christ or something. And I didn't understand it. It's like, aren't we here to have a conversation, like an open dialogue about these fascinating things? And you just have it's a theology. It's a belief system, Ryder, is what it is. It's like a cult.
That's exactly what it is. And it's not really so much for the lack of information, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's that there's been an advanced coordinated effort to mock people with complete and utter disinformation. And that disinformation comes directly from the conspiracy community, the truther community, the New Age community, and the UFO communities, is what I've found. Right? How many times have we heard? I've studied a lot of these cults. I'm doing a series on them, the UFO cults right now. And they've been predicting mass landings of extraterrestrial races since the 30s. And it's just never happened. Where are they? Why haven't they shown up?
All the
Yeah.
predictions that never come true, all the people that are reincarnated as prophets, and people that are these really famous people all throughout history, like the David Wilcock, Edgar Casey story. He's Edgar Casey reincarnated to people like Corey Goode, or what was he? He was the prophet Enoch, I think, reincarnated. These people always reincarnate as these really powerful. I mean, more than likely, you were a peasant who worked in a field, or were a slave at some point in history. You probably weren't a prophet or a king or a queen if you reincarnated. But that it's delusional, and this is what frustrates me personally, Ryder, is that I love these topics. I love discussing, the supernatural. I love discussing UFOs. I love discussing, for lack of a better term, conspiracies. I'm a huge history buff. I just wrote a huge history book myself. Actually, I just published it, and I love all these things and everything else. Like, I'm just fascinated by anything and everything. I want to learn, and I don't like when people knowingly or unknowingly, especially knowingly, spread disinformation in the form of sensational garbage that gets clicks and clout online, because it's fake, it's insincere, and it harms and does damage to good, honest people that want to grow and learn, and especially people that want to achieve some level of internal, introspective spiritual development. It really it takes advantage of those people, and that personally makes me really angry, because I don't want to be taken advantage of, and I have been in the past, and I see other people being taken advantage of today, and it's not my responsibility to help those people, but I find that so disgusting and wrong, and that's what really makes me upset about all this stuff personally.
Yeah, and it's really sad that it's that way, right? It's sad that you're looking for something more than what's going on in the mainstream, and then you have to sift through all this nonsensical garbage fear mongering,
Mm-hmm.
right? And another really hard pill to swallow that I've realized, and you mentioned it earlier, is that the people in this community, and I'm not talking about my audience. My audience is great. I'm talking about other people. I hope people don't ever think that I'm like talking about the people on my show or the people that are in the chat or listening to this right now. I'm talking about the community as a whole, right? They are just as brainwashed as the people that they're claiming are really brainwashed.
Mm-hmm.
They've just been hit in a different way, but it's all the same. The community has become its own worst enemy. Right? And I'm really starting to get very disillusioned with it. Right? It's literally filled with fear mongers. This is going to happen. Russia is going to hit us with a cyber attack. Next week, our money is going to collapse. Food is no longer going to be available. Society is on the brink of disaster every single day with these people. And it hasn't happened. And critical thinking makes me see that it's never going to happen unless we make it happen. Right? That's the only way.
Yeah.
We have to make it happen. It's exactly like these UFO cults that I've been covering. They're just stringing along their followers. Like with the UFO cults, any day now, the UFOs are going to show up and land and rapture us up into the next evolutionary level above human, where we're going to be transformed into extraterrestrials, and it never happens. But they're still there waiting. The truther community and the conspiracy community and the extraterrestrial UFO community is the exact same way. They're just leading the people along.
Yeah, and you know what? It was honestly a surprise over the years to me. Going back to your original question, it was kind of a surprise to me to find so much of that in communities or at conferences or around people that you would assume have much more open minds and should be able to engage in very objective dialogue about complex issues or issues that are really difficult to really nail down, like something paranormal, supernatural, UFO related. So going back to that first question again, you had asked me like what my experience has been through all this, and I don't know if you remember this, but I'm sure a lot of people listening do. And I don't talk about it much anymore. But when I was at Contact in the Desert, what was it, 2017, 2018, and Jordan Sather, who was making the rounds, was there, and he had done a presentation about QAnon, and I wasn't trying to be like a really nasty, angry heckler. I just went up to him after the presentation. He was outside on the lawn of the courtyard of the hotel, and he had a bunch of people around him. And it's on video. I just respectfully said, "Hey, I got a question. Everything you're saying sounds like some kind of theological dogma. You're talking about basically reptilians and Pleiadians. It's like demons and angels. You're talking about God and the devil. There's the deep state versus the cabal. It's this heaven, hell, good and evil conflict, this dichotomy, this polarity. It just sounds like a cult." And it's like there's like maybe 5% of the QAnon stuff that's real, and a majority of it is just an exaggeration, sensationalism, and just it's garbage. It's nonsense. But it could be based on something real, and I even pointed that out. And so they said that was heckling. They said that I attacked him. But because of that event, that got my name injected more into the groups of those people who do that kind of stuff professionally and rip people off to make a living. And that same weekend, I had talked to, I don't know if you remember this, I talked to Emery Smith, and I got the audio clip of Emery Smith saying that, Jordan Sather had doxed them, and Corey Good had given the go ahead to do the doxing, and Jordan Sather was the main doxer, releasing everybody's personal information, and David Wilcock had threatened Emery Smith to make things up or he'd be out of the grift. And I don't know if I can trust everything the guy said, but just because I got that little clip of audio, it was like a nuclear bomb detonated within these communities, and everybody just went at each other, and it's just so bizarre. It shouldn't be like that. Maybe I'm idealistic, but that's why I do what I do, Ryder, because I know that's why you do what you do. I get so sick of the lying, and then to expose the lying and get treated like you're the liar, it's really weird.
It is really weird. And it's interesting that you brought up QAnon, because I just did a UFO cult video, doomsday cult video party last week with the I Am cult with Guy and Edna Ballard here. And
yeah.
Literally, dude, if you just switch out Trump and JFK Jr., that was supposedly running the QAnon nonsense, with Guy and Edna Ballard here, you have the exact same thing. It's almost the exact same thing
It's
that
like a
was going
Mad
on
Lib.
in the 30s.
It's like a cult Mad Lib. You just fill in the blanks.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, the whole Saint Germain thing turned into a Saint Germain trust that was going to restore the gold standard to the money that we use, and then we were going to be that Saint Germain was going to take over the government with the Ascended Masters. That the Ascended Masters are going to overthrow the government and instill a new government, and
Sounds
that we were going
familiar.
to be put into this new age of humanity. It's the exact same thing, dude. That's what I've discovered is that these stories and these ideas and these thought forms, or these egregores is what I call them, have been created, and then they just constantly get regurgitated with a new and different spin on it. Right? Someone else gets a hold of it, a new generation gets a hold of it. They don't know where it came from because it's been passed down through so many different people where they don't realize where it came from when it came from one of these UFO cults, right? And then they take that information and then they add just a little bit of stuff onto it and then create their own ascended masters, like Guy and Edna Ballard here did with Elena Blavatsky and a few other of the occult writers of the time. Ripped off them, created their own ascended masters, and then that's just what happens since then.
And so there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people that, and I mean, these are names that are, if anybody listening pays attention to any of this stuff or listens even, you know, a little bit to radio or podcasts, et cetera, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of people that take on names. Like there's people, I've seen 2 or 3 people at conferences. I know this isn't their real name, but they go by the name Saint Germain. There's people that name themselves Thoth. There's people, I met Ra, the sun god at the conference. I don't know if I told you that. His name was Ra.
Yeah, I met him too.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I didn't know that the Egyptian sun god made it over here to Arizona at a conference I went to, and it's just like I don't get it. Like it's creating this persona. It's so fake. It's so disingenuous. It's so dishonest, and it is so it's so conflicting with the sincerity of some really good actual researchers or journalists. I'll tell you one thing real quick that I saw that really was a turning point for me. It was at Contact in the Desert in like 2000. It was 16. One of the first years I went, and I got up early one morning, and I went up to the main hall where there was going to be a speaker, and the speaker after this speaker was going to be, Stephen Greer, and he was going to show some movie he had made. And so at the door to the entrance of this big hall where they were going to have this presentation, Jim Marrs, famous journalist, author, he had his setup there. Personally, I always thought Jim Marrs was a very respectable person. He was a friend of mine, and he had his setup. He had his books there, and I was actually spending some time with him. And I remember his assistant got up to go somewhere, and he decided to get up and go to the restroom. So he asked me if I could watch his table. So I'm watching Jim's table, and here comes Stephen Greer and his goons that are wearing bulletproof vests for some reason with like tasers and handguns, all around, like a bat belt, because they're threatened by something, and it's all for show. So they like set their stuff down on Jim's table, and it's his table. They give you at these organized events, they give these speakers a table. It's your table, and the Stephen Greer people just put their stuff down. And I said, hey, you can't, like, you can put your stuff down for a second, but you can't keep it there. They said, oh, no, we're taking this table. And they just push Jim Marrs' stuff, off the table. They start to push it off the table. And I'm just
Wow.
and I mean, I don't care who it is. Even if it was just some random person who wrote a random book, it wasn't Jim Marrs. Like, it's so disrespectful. And like, just someone that acts like that is what Stephen Greer did. Someone that acts like that. How can I trust that person to tell me anything that is truthful or honest? If something so minimal, something so simple, you're just going to be that much of a low-life degenerate about, I can't trust anything you say. It's just little things like that over the years I've experienced. And people ask me, like, why don't you like Stephen Greer? Even if what he's saying is true, like, how can I trust the guy when he acts like that? That's the kind of thing that gets me.
Yeah, Fireflies. I'm pretty sure that was Raw that converted the tanning beds into med beds and then tried to sell med bed sessions from a converted tanning bed.
Yeah. Yeah, those are probably expensive sessions too, Fireflies. It's like $2,000-3,000 a session.
Oh yeah, but it's imbued. It's imbued with the energy of the
Ra's
Arcturians.
powers. But
Yes.
Ra's the god of the sun anyway. Couldn't he just like bring down the sun rays and give you a nice tan and heal you with the rays of the sun? Why he needs a tanning bed to do that? But all right.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And out of all the people in the world, that guy gets picked to be the incarnation of the sun god Amun Ra, right?
You
How
know
does that work?
there's a more powerful. A lot of people don't know this. I just wrote a book called Garden of Hallucinations. And this book, when I was doing research for it, I found this god I'd never heard of before. And Ra is considered the most powerful sun god, or the most powerful god of the entire Egyptian pantheon. But there is one god in Egypt who is above all the other gods. His name is Hek, or Heka, Heka, more powerful than all the other gods. So I'm just the reincarnation of Heka, and Ra is my subordinate. And there's more to come on that. I'll let you know. We'll do some channeling sessions with this really powerful Egyptian god Ryder. I am Heka reincarnated.
Well, long as it's not Hecker reincarnated, I think you'll be all right.
How can you I don't understand. I feel like an idiot even joking about that. Like, how do you say that with a straight face and make money from it? I don't get.
We have someone in the house. Hound Dog has got one of your books, brother.
Hey, that's wonderful. Occult Arcana. It's a big book. Hope that you enjoy it.
And Hound Dog also sent a $2 super chat in. Thanks so much, Hound Dog. Appreciate your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. Yeah, it's unbelievable. These I'm really kind of back and forth with Stephen Greer a lot, because some things he says is like, okay, like he was one of the first people that I heard talk about the MyLab military abductions, which I think that's what all of them are. I don't think they're extraterrestrials. I think it's literally the military that's doing the abductions. And but
I agree with you.
A lot of the other stuff he talks is just not. And then his documentaries, it's just the same thing over and over and over again. And then he crowdfunds all the making of his documentaries. It takes like what, $20,000, $30,000 to make, and then he's crowdfunding like $500,000 to $1 million. Like, where is all that money going, bro? It doesn't take $500,000 to make one of your documentaries. I just made a documentary, JFKX Solving the Crime of the Century, for like $1,000.
Yeah.
In a month of my time.
Yeah, I went to film school, and anything we did in film school, I mean, once you have the cameras and little editing equipment, it doesn't cost that much money, right? This is what a lot of them do. It's like there's a tiny bit of sincerity and a tiny bit of genuineness, and they just use that as the source of ripping people off. Because you tell people, like, we want to find the truth, we want to find answers, we want to figure things out. And the average person wants the truth, and they want to figure things out, and they want the answers to life's big questions. So you follow someone who promises you that, and they just constantly tell you, well, we need more money to do it. We need more money to figure this out. We need more money for the truth. It's I don't even call it a grift though, Ryder, because a grift is by definition a small swindle. This isn't a small swindle. These people are engaged in massive, massive swindles. I mean, some of this stuff is as I've heard other people talk about on their shows before too. A lot of this stuff is like illegal consumer fraud. These people are engaged in, etc. So anyway, I saw the listener that said Hecate. That's a different goddess. I'm talking about Heka, Heka. It's an Egyptian god. But
oh yeah, Joe said Hecate. Yeah. Yeah, there's a few Greer fans in here, but I mean, King James says that Greer talks about kidnapping, DNA harvesting, and probing, and it's probably probing. And probing is a friendly endeavor. Yes, take it up the butt from some extraterrestrials. They don't want to hurt you.
They probe your wallet, is what they're doing. They're probing, making sure they get all the dollars out. Well, yeah. If I may add one more thing to this, is when you think about like I don't know what to call it anymore, Ryder, but the UFO community, whatever, I don't know what to call it. But you think about the UFO community, the history of it. We talked about this on my show when you were on. There are plenty of hard, like physical black and white government records you can get your hands on. I mean, I don't know how much of those you want to trust, but there's a famous document called the Robertson Panel Report from 1952, 53. And in that document, the government was talking, this was like early intelligence agency years, right? They were talking about infiltrating UFO groups. they admitted, they acknowledged there's something going on. There's some kind of phenomena. They don't know even necessarily what it is, but they know that people are interested in it. And so they wanted to infiltrate UFO groups with agents to discredit and also just to keep an eye on what those groups were doing to see if maybe they figured something out before the government figured it out. And part of the way that they were going to kind of manipulate the public was not just infiltrating those groups and keeping an eye on people like Richard Dottie did, and you've seen the movie Mirage Men,
Yeah.
but it was also spreading disinformation within those groups and using Disney and other forms of entertainment, colleges, etc., to intentionally spread disinformation, and going into the media and taking something that looks like a really unexplainable event, an unexplainable object, but they know what it is. So when they present it to the public, it's unexplainable, it's bizarre, it's odd, but then a couple weeks later they come out and they give you, oh, this is the answer. It's a plane, it's this or that. So they can discredit things that were never credible, and then they can keep quiet things that nobody can explain that really should be addressed and investigated. And that's from 1953. And then we saw all these Hollywood movies come out. I mean, even at that time, but many years later throughout the 50s and 60s. I mean, this has been ongoing. These psychological, behavioral type nudging propaganda campaigns. So there is something real about all of this stuff, but there's so much fake stuff that it just gets completely buried, and it's hard to know where to start looking.
Why do you think that they would want to do that? Why do you think that they would want to infiltrate these UFO groups and spread all this mis and disinformation? I mean, I can only think of two reasons. One, it's a real phenomena and they want to throw people off the scent of what's really happening. Or two, they're trying to cover up their own technology, and that it's their craft that has been developed, and they're trying to get people off of the scent that it's really them the entire time. But blaming it on extraterrestrials as the scapegoat really gets everybody to look in the opposite direction of what's actually happening.
I actually think it's probably a little bit of both of those things. Maybe more so the former, but it's probably a combination of both. I mean, in my personal opinion, what I think the reason for that is, I mean, this is at a time at the end of World War II, and obviously this was during and prior to the end of World War II as well. You had Foo Fighters and Ghost Rockets, and you had the Battle of Los Angeles, that etheric type thing over LA, and you also had etheric discs that were seen in Schweinfurt, Germany in 1943, I think it was. And over time, those etheric things and the Ghost Rockets and the Foo Fighters became more physical, part of that idea of it's really a psychic phenomenon that's been literally manifested as an egregore, tulpa, thought form, golem, etc. So I think a lot of it, yes, has to do certainly with military technology, but also we can speculate and theorize beyond that and think maybe whatever these things are, I don't know what they are. Stephen Greer doesn't know what they are. If anybody knew exactly what they are, they'd have shown us 100% indisputable evidence by now. So whatever these things are, and there's probably a lot of different aspects and angles to them, different ways to look at them, different interpretations. Whatever they are, though, it's probably a matter of, one, government doesn't want the public to panic. I do believe that, because if they don't know what it is and it's interfering with military technology, I mean, it's a threat to every country on the planet. It's a big threat to humanity. They probably want to keep that secret. I do buy that a little tiny bit. But part of it probably is just using it as a scapegoat, like they did throughout the Cold War, to test, the SR-71 and spy planes. And then that really just became part of the pop culture, part of the mythology. It makes a lot of money when you make an alien movie. People love alien movies. They love alien conversations. So it developed outside of the mythology. It developed as sort of a commercialized product. And I think the government now uses it just like people on various streaming platforms and podcasts do. When you really want a good show topic and you really want people to listen and pay attention, you got to name your show Illuminati, Alien, Reptilians, Flying UFOs Down to Earth and Abduct People and Probe them. People love topics like that, the hashtags. It just draws people in. So the government does the same thing. When you want something to distract the public from a political scandal, suddenly, oh, look, there's UFO documents. And both political sides of the spectrum do it. They're involved in some kind of corruption. Suddenly, oh, we might release, if you vote for me, we'll release those UFO documents real quick. It's the same thing as far as I'm concerned.
Same with the JFK files too.
Oh yeah.
When I get in there, we're going to release all those JFK files. They get in there and they never do it. And now they're all sealed.
Yep.
Never going to be released. Jeanette, I think that's also a scapegoat as well. I'm leaning toward, because a lot of people, and even myself, I've said that they started out as, German craft, and that's what people have been seeing. But I think that is quite possibly another scapegoat to put the fall on. It's not, if it doesn't turn out that it's extraterrestrials, it was the Germans, it was all them, pawning it off onto a different country or a different group of people, like they're so fond of doing all the time. But I think that there is some truth to that. The Glocka Bell technology and the Sonora Aero Club, which was also funded by Prussia, which was Germany before Germany was Germany,
Mm-hmm.
in Northern California. So I think that there is some truth there, but I think that it's also kind of a scapegoaty thing to try and possibly fall back on sometime in the future if things don't work out according to their plans.
I was just thinking that, like, having this conversation with you, Ryder, and then if you go to, I don't know, whatever the streaming platform is, there's a bunch of platforms, you listen to other podcasts, radio shows, etc. I don't like advertising personally. I'm not a good marketer. I'm not a good advertiser. I don't like it. It doesn't resonate with me. But I understand why people advertise and why people, they want to make, their image look good. I don't like this idea of selling the truth. And I don't like this idea of selling like we've got secret information. You see this everywhere. It's like everybody knows exactly what aliens are. They know what UFOs are. They've got lists of the different species, like 67, 95 species. Like, how do you have a list of that? That doesn't make, what are you talking about, right? It's the same thing with, like, directed energy weapons, overnight, just like that, instantaneously. Every hack with a TikTok account has the same exact ability to just get to the hardcore truth of the matter overnight, just like that. Nobody else knows what happened, but this guy on TikTok knows exactly what went down. And I just don't, it's everything. It's the commoditizing, it's the commercializing, it's the packaging and the selling of truth, because people want the truth. People want honesty, and people just sell the truth. And what they actually give you, it's false advertising. What they actually give you is just a bunch of BS.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up the directed energy weapon stuff, because that is what the show.
You gotta do, man.
Got to do the do all day long. Drink the do the do, touch the do. But it seems like that really just kind of popped up overnight. It's exactly what you're saying. It's almost exactly like the whole AI thing as well, right? How everyone before was like, "Oh, I'll never use AI to make any artificial generated photos. I'll never use AI to write any of my music or write any of my papers." And then all of a sudden, Chat GPT comes along, and then everyone's using it, right? Mm-hmm. All the things that they said prior is just nothing now, and it's like they forgot that they said any of that. And there's many of examples of that throughout history where people are like, "Oh, I'll never let them do that to me. I'll never fall for that." And then as soon as it comes out, they do it. They fall for it. They fall for it every time. Because it's never done the way that they think that it's going to be done. Mm-hmm. It's something unexpected.
Right? Something unexpected, and also it's easier to just say, "Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to resist that." It's easy to say that before there's any consequences. It's a lot harder to actually do that when there are consequences.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you about these fires in Hawaii, because it did seem like everybody just jumped on the do bandwagon. It's dues. It was the dues. I know it was the dues. So what's your thoughts and your opinions on what happened in Hawaii? Because to me, it looks like just a bunch of negligence, right? They just did everything wrong.
So I have a few thoughts. I'll try to keep them coherent. First of all, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of words and acronyms in these discussions turning into verbs. Like when people they're doing us. Like, what do you mean they're doing you? That's not a word. First of all, or they adrenochromed those kids. What do you mean they adrenochromed those kids? That's not a word either. So I get tired of the making up of words, first of all. Back in 2018, I did a show about directed energy weapons on the Secret Teachings. And I have this promo picture, a little rectangular promo picture I make for every show. And it's a compilation. It's before I really knew how to do really good artwork for my show promos, but I had like a compilation of pictures of directed energy weapons, like from Lockheed Martin's website, Raytheon stuff that they were talking. There's like stock photos. It's not real weapons, like stock photos, CG stuff. And there was a picture I had in this compilation of a rocket launch. It was a Falcon 9 rocket launching from Vandenberg Air Force, or what they call Space Force Base in California.
Yes.
Right. And that was in 2018. I have that image in my compilation. And then as soon as this story about Hawaii broke, I start seeing the same image everywhere. So I didn't have to do any research at all initially. I just had to go online and look at people sharing this picture. And I just I commented on every Twitter, every Facebook post I could find. Those are the only social media sites I have. I said, that's a Falcon X rocket. People would tell me, you're working for somebody. You're covering up the truth. I'm like, no, here's my compilation from 2018. It's like the date is stamped on it. I made it in 2018. Here's the show link from 2018. That's a picture from 5 years ago. That's not from Hawaii. And I noticed something else. I noticed that on my Facebook page, Ryder, I got two of them. Two people that I'm very discerning about who I befriend. Two people I don't know. I never clicked friend accept. They have like no friends themselves.
This is the photo you're speaking about, right?
Yes. And if you find the original photo, it's not cropped at the top. The original photo, you can actually see the rocket in the air. So they crop it as well to make it look like some kind of laser hitting the ground when it's clearly a rocket in the original picture.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up that original picture too, but keep going. I just want people to see this and see the fallacies of it. Okay, here's the original picture.
Yep, there's the rocket. Or that's one of them. Is that the same one? But yeah, it's what it looked like. You can see the rocket in the launch.
Yeah.
So
time-lapse photo.
So I had these people that came on. This is about the photo. I had these people that just like started posting things about this photo all over my Facebook. I don't know who they were, and so I would comment on them and say, "Yeah, I don't think that you're a person. I think you're a sock puppet," which is a real government term. The U.S. government used sock puppets in Iraq and Afghanistan, digital agents, basically, fake accounts, fake identities. So I said, I think you're a sock puppet. And they said, oh, no. They said, we're on your side. Like, we know that, the deep state. And they start using all these terms. And I said, okay, you're definitely a sock puppet. I'm deleting you. And then I got another one. And then this person starts arguing with me. I don't know who these people are. And then they're deleted and their pages are gone. And there's no record of them on Facebook. I started thinking, are these like government agents that are spreading? I don't know for sure. I'm just saying, I started thinking, are these government agents spreading this photograph of this rocket? And I started thinking, the algorithm is promoting this. So the algorithm is promoting it. It seemed, I don't know if they're government agents or they're just wackadoos, but they're people on social media coming to me after I hosted Ground Zero that week. I did a show in Maui. I talked to some people in Hawaii on the show, and I did my show. And right after that, this is when I got these people come to my Facebook page, and I don't know if they're government agents or wackadoos or what they are. But it was very weird. So that was, I thought that maybe what this is this disinformation, talk about a conspiracy, is being spread by the algorithm and perhaps by government agencies or intelligence agencies, something akin to like Mirage Men, spreading fake stories, about aliens and they want to steal our resources and eat humans or whatever. So that's on the picture side of things. In terms of the DEWs versus, whatever the alternative narrative is, the climate change, both of those are blaming the event on something that is like kind of uncontrollable. Because for people that believe in climate change, there's like really nothing you can do. It's just the world's falling apart. People that believe in DEWs, it's a secret cabal using space-based laser weapons. There's nothing we can do to stop them. So I feel like both of those are basically the same side of the same, or two sides of the same coin. There's probably another way to look at it. And if you were a power company like Pacific Gas and Electric up in California, they admitted that they were guilty of negligence. They didn't take care of the power lines. They didn't trim the trees. They didn't take care of the infrastructure, and that's what started the fire. They admitted it. They acknowledged it. People still don't know that Paradise wasn't burned because a DEW came down to kill aliens that were living there, like David Wilcock claimed. It burned because of the negligence of the power company, and they take money to maintain the infrastructure, and the state does too, but they don't do anything to actually maintain it. So you get a lot of fires, and same thing happened in Hawaii. There's videos. This is the thing that got me right. There's videos of on TikTok and other places that did not go as viral. So while the viral directed energy weapon videos go viral, this rocket ship that's they say is a laser, the videos of people in Lahaina, people in Maui, outside filming power lines coming down, outside filming power lines on the ground sparking and starting fires, those videos didn't get promulgated and promoted by the algorithm in the same way that the rocket stuff did. So it's almost as if, whether it's government or whether it's maybe corporate or a combination of both, there are people online clearly intentionally spreading disinformation about DEWs with a shadow of doubt, because DEWs are real weapon systems. You know, they have the ones that disable electronics. They have the ones that are crowd control, crowd dispersal. Those are the microwave weapons. They have systems that I guess theoretically they could start a fire if they wanted to. So the bottom line, and to answer your question, it all seems like it's taking away from intentional negligence. And even mainstream media, there's like the AP and the Washington Post and others were like, it's really weird that Hawaiian Electric Company, they went in there and right after the fire, they started hauling away all those poles and all the wires and all the evidence that was needed for an investigation to find out what happened. Really strange. They would go in and remove all that. There's lawsuits now. This is in the court documents. So it's like, we blame it on climate change or we blame it on DEWs. Those are the two sides of the acceptable argument to have. But if you step back and say, actually, it's the negligence of the company, it's the people that own the company, it's, you know, the strangeness about the police chief of Maui, the same guy from Las Vegas with the Las Vegas shooting, the locking of people basically in their little town and burning people alive on that road out of Lahaina. All weird things, the shutting off of, you know, the siren system and the water. Something weird happened. It's not the fire that's weird. It's the situation that was cultivated. It's the negligence. Those are the things that are weird. It's not directed energy weapons, and it's not climate change. It's something very man-made, but something that our attention is removed from because we're focused on these other hysterical theories about what happened, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And this is a New York Times article talking about the warning sirens never sounded on Maui. State official says none of the 80 warning sirens placed around the island were activated in response to the devastating fire. A spokesman for Hawaii's emergency management agency confirmed. And that's not the only thing. Their water supply got diminished as well. They weren't able to have the water that they needed to be able to fight the fires. They said that the fires collapsed the water system, but then there's other reports saying that they intentionally shut off the water, which I don't know how much truth.
They've also had water. They've had water pump problems there. I found articles in 2017. They had massive water pump issues all over the Hawaiian Islands. So having water pump issues is also a very common thing down there as well. And this is the issue that I come to, Ryder, is that regardless of what started the fires, like there certainly is, I don't know if I want to call it a cover up, but there's certainly very suspicious and odd and strange things that have happened, from the blocking of people off from leaving to the sirens to the water being shut off. Like, those are suspicious things, and those things are overlooked because somebody on TikTok wants to get some clicks and some clout by sharing a picture of a rocket ship that they've cropped so it looks like a laser beam hitting the island, even though it wasn't an island and it was from 2018. And those are the things that make it more difficult to get to the core of what happened. And if it was like corporate negligence or even intentional negligence, like they just allowed those systems to deteriorate so fires would eventually start, like they did in Paradise, then those people need to be held accountable. And they're never going to be held accountable if we're always looking somewhere else for the answers. And I think that if that is the case, if that is negligence, or if that is intentional, or if that is both, those groups of people, talk about a conspiracy theory, they're going to spread disinformation about anything and everything else except anything to do with what they're guilty of. They're going to spread the laser stories and the space-based weapons plot. Does that make sense? That's kind of what I think.
Absolutely. That's what I feel is going on. And that's what you see going on in the UFO community as well. But it wasn't just the cropping of pictures. There's like straight up, here's one right here of pictures being literally, this is the original photograph, right?
Okay.
Then I'm going to take this off. And then here is the photograph of uh, the supposed directed energy weapon, which is the exact same photo.
Oh, I haven't seen this one. Wow. So they hit the roof right there with the laser.
But all they did was crop the photo and then mirror it. So they turned the photo
I see
around to the
that. Yeah.
opposite side and then photoshopped in a laser coming down from space.
Hey, at least whoever did this one, at least they used an image from Hawaii, because I've seen plenty that are like meteor strikes in Europe. I've seen ones that they're not even on the same side of the planet. They're using stuff from other countries. It's ridiculous. At least they used Hawaii for that. But I mean, I haven't seen that one. That's so ridiculously obvious. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, and then there's all kinds of stuff that's popped up over this whole thing. There's other videos that are resurfacing, and there's this one video that I seen of. Do you remember the video where? Let me see if I can find it. I think it was Prince Harry and his wife, Prince Harry or whatever. I can't keep track of the royal family, but where she's looking like super robotic and she's like waving her hand or whatever, and she looks like a robot. Her eyes doesn't move, her face doesn't move. She just kind of like goes like this. It came out like 3 or 4 years ago. Do you remember that?
I vaguely remember that, but it's kind of ringing a bell.
Well, that was a video that was done for the season finale of Britain's Got Talent.
Oh, so it was for a TV show.
It was for a TV show. And they didn't tell, whenever it was released in the United States, it was circulated around the community back 3 or 4 years ago. And they didn't say that it was for a TV show. And then everyone thought that they were legit robots, which they were robots, but it was for Britain's Got Talent. All right, that's how easy. Hold on, let me see if I can find it here. I just saw it earlier because it's really it's really alarming, and that's the way that things are done in this community. That's how easy it is to fool and trick people that want to believe, right? And then that spawned the whole robot thing, and then that also ties into the whole lady on the plane saying that person back there isn't real. You know what I mean? It's like they just keeps playing off of each other.
Yeah, you know what? Nonsense. And one thing that really got me is I grew up in Florida. I'm originally a Florida man, and I went through as a kid and as a young adult, I went through a lot of hurricanes, and it was just normal. You live in Florida, you go, you experience hurricanes. And I mean, if anybody's ever looked at a map, look at the 2 recent hurricanes that were near Florida, the one that hit Florida and devastated some of the communities there. I mean, it's big, it's massive. It's like even a category 2 or a category 3 can be hundreds of miles across. So I heard this talking point on a couple of like random videos people sent me. And then I started having friends call me and they're like, did you hear that there were strange winds in Hawaii? And I said, strange winds? What do you mean strange winds? And they said, well, the hurricane was hundreds of miles offshore. And yet they said the winds were driving the fire. And I said, yeah, but the hurricane is hundreds of miles. I don't know how big the one was over Hawaii, but it was hundreds of miles across. They measure the distance from let's say the coastline, wherever you are, to the eye of the storm. You can get bands of rain hundreds of miles from the eye of the storm. But the alternative, independent TikTok community talking point, Ryder, was how could a storm 100 so miles away be causing winds in Hawaii when it was that far away? It's like the storm isn't a single dot. It's gigantic. So it's just like something so basic like that. And I swear to God, I had like 3 personal close friends of mine who normally are pretty rational. And they called me and they're like, Ryan, this is really weird. There's it looks like the hurricane's 300 miles offshore, but it's causing winds on the islands. How is that possible? This is so weird. There's definitely a conspiracy here. I'm like, no, it's not a conspiracy. They're bands of rain and storms. It's like, it's normal. It's just so ridiculous. It's so obvious. It's so ridiculous.
All right, I found the video here.
Yeah, this is the robots.
Yeah.
Is this the
This is
TV show
the
ended
TV
okay.
show for Britain's Got Talent. Yeah. See, doesn't she look like a robot?
Oh, of course,
And
yeah.
people were spreading this around, and they're still spreading it around today, even though it's fake and it's for a TV show.
That's what they want you to think, Ryder. They want you to think it's for a TV show.
Ridiculous, dude.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it's everywhere. I mean, that is so ridiculously, obviously fake.
Yeah.
Well,
But
that's
how.
Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. Yeah, but I mean that's the way that it works, right? Like if the context was given that them here was for this was for a TV show for Britain's Got Talent, and then people would realize that it was fake, right? But they didn't put that in give any context to what we're seeing here.
What can people
And
do
people,
with that? They can get clicks and clout and cash. That's what I call it. Clicks, clout, and cash by sharing this garbage online.
That's exactly right. But I did find something interesting though that I want to share with you.
Yeah, and I have something else for you too. I wanted to share.
Okay, cool. Because we got some more time here, but speaking of the do stuff.
All right. So some do's, and
we're on to the do's here, which is Operation Do.
Oh, Wikipedia. Right? Is that Wikipedia?
It's Wikipedia, dude.
Very credible.
Operation Do. Okay. So Operation Do refers to two separate field trials conducted by the United States in the 1950s. The tests were designed to study the behavior of aerosol-released biological agents. Right. The general description of Operation Do took place in 1951 to 1952 off the southeast coast of the United States, including near Georgia, North and South Carolina. Operation Do consists of two sets of trials: Do 1 and Do 2. Do. The test involved the release of 250 pounds of fluorescent particles from a minesweeper off of the coast. Operation Do was described by the U.S. Army as a part of the Dugway Special Report 1062, dated August 1st, 1952. The purpose of Operation Do was to study the behavior of aerosol-related biological agents. Right? We got Do 1 and Do 2 here. Do 2 involved the release of fluorescent particles, zinc, cadmium sulfate, and plant spores from the aircraft. Do 2 was described in a 1953 Army report, which remained classified at the time of 1997 report by the United States National Research Council concerning the U.S. Army's zinc cadmium sulfate dispersion program in the 1950s. Hey, there's a real operation, dude. There's a real Operation Do out there.
Operation Do, Project Popeye, Project Storm Fury. That's the thing that gets me, is like there's a lot of really credible stuff that can actually be, I mean, you can pull records on Operation Popeye and Storm Fury. You can go on NOAA's website and pull it. They got hurricane modification programs. So a lot of it's theoretical, but some things have been tested. Sulfur to block out sunlight, reflective particles in the sky, building giant. Back in 1989, some guys suggested building some kind of giant, basically like a sail to put up in front of the Earth to block solar radiation, to cool the planet off. All kinds of proposals, all kinds of projects, all kinds of operations. Some things actually been tested, like tsunami bombs and snow bombs and all kinds of stuff. But in order for the whole Do subject to have any credibility, I think you need to find proof, and proof for me doesn't include a $5-6 12-pack of Mountain Dew at Dollar General. That doesn't count for me.
Well, you don't believe in the Mountain Dew time clock, bro?
That's the thing that gets me, is I seen the Maui Burst. Is it Maui Burst? Is that the flavor?
Yeah,
the Maui Burst. And someone said, look at what they're just programming us with this year. And I said, not this year. That is a drink that Dollar General has had for about 5 years. And as of about 3 years ago, it became their official drink. So it's been around for a long time. It's not new. And they said, well, that's the predictive programming. And I said, oh, so Dollar General released a Mountain Dew flavor to program the public that there would be a fire in Hawaii 6 to 7 years after its release. Like, where are you coming up with this stuff, right? And then you want to hear a really good conspiracy theory, Ryder, is that after that fire, there was a shooting in Jacksonville at a Dollar General. So, the connections are just unbelievable. It's crazy what kind of things that we're uncovering here. But in all seriousness,
they were trying to break into the Dollar General to find out about the dews, huh?
About the dews,
Mountain
yeah.
Dew.
That's the home hub of the Maui burst right there in Jacksonville.
They got the dews down pat, which I made a meme today, which I think is genius that I want to show to everybody here. It's the dew monster.
Well, the
right
guy
here,
who
baby.
also...
Boom, dew monster.
That's War of the Worlds right there. Ooh.
That's War of the Dew Monster.
This is live.
War of the Dews.
This is a picture from a live a video cast of what happened in Hawaii, I understand. This is what started the fires
this
in
was
Lahaina.
this was seen off of the coast of Hawaii, thrashing about and shooting lasers.
Yeah. Well, so there's a couple others. That's great. There's a couple others like this too. I'm from Florida, like I said, and I shopped at Publix when I lived there a lot, and I remember this sangria. I sent you a picture of the sangria. Remember that sangria? So I remember this. I don't drink alcohol, but I remember at one point or another seeing it on a shelf or walking by it. It was called Class 5 Sangria, and it has it's a big Category 5 hurricane on it. It's an alcoholic drink. I think it's like a sangria mix, and now that's being shared online by people that are saying this is proof that the most recent hurricanes to form near Florida were geoengineered or controlled by some kind of weather weapons. And it's like, that beverage has been, I did 2 seconds of research. That beverage has been around since like 2002 or 3 or 4. I saw it when I was a kid. So Publix released a sangria. It's not even their sangria. It's just this company they sell 18 years ago to program the public to prepare for a specific hurricane that happens in 2023. Like, where are people getting this stuff? Then I saw another one. It was a kombucha. I don't think I sent you this one. A kombucha called Controlled Burn kombucha. So, it's more proof of directed energy weapons, the kombucha.
Oh, then you got the Mountain Dew Doritos as well.
Yeah.
Which, points to
Triangles.
Arizona. Then that also points to Florida, Before we get any further in here, because I've seen people posting in the chat, the Simpsons predicted the directed energy weapon, that there was which is really strange because it seems like every single event that happens, the Simpsons already done it. Which I don't know if that's just... I would have to go back and actually watch these episodes of the Simpsons to verify if the stuff is really in there, because it seems like it's almost like it's just become like a joke now, right? That whatever happens in our reality, the Simpsons also did it.
But the thing is, how many years have the Simpsons been on air? I mean, how many episodes have they done? Like, eventually it's going to overlap with reality. They're going to get something right, joking about something, and people are going to, it's prediction of the future. I mean, but I get it. There are some weird things, in the Simpsons that, the people say the one where Bart was holding up the 9/11 on the magazine, or the Donald Trump coming down the stairs, or I just played one on my show recently where, what's his name that owns the power company? He wants to block out the sun, which is something the White House has recently proposed. And, the one they're talking about, the cat flu, and everybody's home, everybody's got the cat flu, and Homer puts the cat in a bag and seals it so that the cat flu doesn't spread. But like those kinds of things could apply to a lot. Like, where was the inspiration originally for that? I think these people think like some secret agents go to the Simpsons writers with a sealed container, and then they open it in the writers' room, like, well, this is what the CIA wants us to write about this week. I don't think it goes down that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think?
I think it's strange, and I think that it's something that has just been... It seems like a parody of itself almost, like when something happens, it's like, someone's showing something from the Simpsons of like when it happens, and there's a few people in here that's commenting about the blue stuff that wasn't burned in Hawaii. What's your thoughts and your ideas surrounding this? The dews don't burn the blue.
one, context. Okay, so there's a lot of pictures and videos, and some of them I've seen are not from Hawaii, so those obviously don't count. But if I guess we take all the evidence, pictures and videos of the things that are blue that don't burn, I have a couple of issues with that. Number one, again, context. Number two, some blue umbrellas or some blue roofs or some blue this or that. I have to imagine that somewhere inside of the homes, somewhere inside of the businesses, there were other blue things. Why are the rubble piles not filled with blue things that didn't burn? That's my second thing. My third thing is, I don't know how fires work. I'm not a fire expert. However, I grew up around tornadoes and hurricanes, and I can tell you that I never had the displeasure or the unfortunate reality of having to deal with a tornado that hit my house, but I've seen neighborhoods that are decimated by tornadoes. You see videos of this where a tornado comes down, blows 2 houses away, and then it doesn't even break the window of the house right next door. And then it goes up and goes down and then destroys another 2 houses. We can't explain how that happens. I don't know, but it doesn't mean it's directed energy weapons, because we can't explain how fire burns, or we can't explain how tornadoes destroy one house and not another. And again, back to point number 2, if blue things weren't burned, which yes, lasers can, I've seen the videos and read some of the research about this. There are some lasers that can burn through certain colors and not other colors. That's a real thing. But you need more than just some blue umbrellas if you want to prove that point. And you also need to answer the question, how come other blue things did burn? And you need to answer the question, if you're talking about celebrity, and you have this meme, the celebrity houses being painted, the roofs painted blue. You got the Blue Man Group going around helping people out.
I started that, Ryan. I started the Blue Man Group meme.
You got a blue shirt on right now too. It looks like you're in the Blue Man Group there.
I am saved.
The blue stuff really, it gets me, because I had somebody on Facebook who I didn't know who they were. They were a friend on Facebook, and they were friends with some other people I know in radio. And they had posted a picture of Oprah Winfrey, some meme of Oprah Winfrey. And I said, Oprah's house wasn't near the fire. And they said, shut up. You're stupid. And they didn't even spell "your" right. I sent that to you. And I said, okay, well, that's an emotional outburst. Okay. Objectively speaking, her house wasn't, it was like 45 minutes southeast of Lahaina. Oh, but Jeff Bezos and Obama's house, they got spared. No, they didn't get spared, because Obama's house is on Oahu. It's not on Maui. And Jeff Bezos' house is so far south on Maui that it might as well be on the next island. It's closer to that next island than it is to Lahaina. So the celebrities' houses didn't get spared. And that's an objective fact that you can prove, and people don't care. Same thing with the Falcon X rocket launch. It's an objective fact. That's a photograph that's been tampered with, edited, filters put on it, cropped. People don't care, because the algorithm tells them to believe something else. So in terms of the blue, those were my perspectives. In terms of the celebrity houses, they're nowhere near the fire. They have no reason to paint their roofs blue, because the fires didn't burn in the places where Obama had his house. I mean, hey, Alex Jones has a house in Hawaii. Was he also part of the plan to burn the state? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Mark Zuckerberg has a house. Was his house spared? They're not on the same island, I don't think. So it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Fireflies has got a great idea. They say, let's sell Don't Do Me blue t-shirts.
That is funny. I like that.
It's a great idea, Fireflies. Might take that from you. But
yeah.
It's weird, even if it was let's just play devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Let's just say that it was a dew that started the fires, right? That's just what started it. The fires would burn everything else.
Mm-hmm.
How would something blue protect you from other things being on fire?
Exactly. Yes, that's a great point.
Even if the dew don't burn blue things, how come the thing beside of it that caught on fire didn't also burn everything else, right? The fire spreads, so a fire would go everywhere. So the whole blue thing doesn't make any sense at all.
I think I mentioned that on the one show I did. I've done 2 of these Hawaii Maui shows. I think I mentioned on the show I did last Monday. Yeah, like if a laser or whatever they call it started the fire, which that technology does exist, but if that started the fire, how come, yes, other other things didn't burn. It's like mashing together multiple conspiracy theories or multiple conspiracies and ideas and technologies into one, and then thinking that you figured it out, and then sitting back and feeling morally superior because you don't believe in climate change, or you don't believe, which I don't either necessarily, but I'm saying that you create your own narrative, your own mythology, and then that becomes the belief system, and then you exist within this tiny little echo chamber you've created, and you find other people who also resonate within that echo chamber, and then you have your community. And I think it's GD delusional.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Even if the lasers can't penetrate blue objects, it can penetrate everything else around it, and then everything else would burn.
Nobody had like a nice blue dress or some blue jeans or a blue pen or anything in their house, and all those blue things burn. Why aren't there like piles of blue jeans in the rubble that didn't burn? Yeah. I'm being facetious, but I'm also being serious. Like, why did some blue things burn and not other blue things? You know,
I don't think blue things are fire resistant, right?
I don't think so. I mean, I might be wrong about that. I have to check the Dave Wilcock channel, but
Archangel Michael channeled me and told me that blue things don't burn.
Yeah, blue things don't burn. Yep.
Right after he told me to bathe in my pee.
That's true story. That's true story. He did tell him that.
Blu-ray Bluetooth. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Blu-ray Bluetooth. Apparently, Bluetooth headsets didn't burn either. They found those in the rubble. I mean, there's another thing too. Is like they're I don't know how true this is, but there are definitely some people that live down there that tried to get back into, you know, the rubble of their home, and they've been arrested for. I'm sure there's plenty of reasons, but they've basically initially they supposedly walled off a lot of Lahaina so people couldn't get in. This is exactly what happened on 9/11. They walled off Ground Zero and they got rid of the material really fast. That's what they did in Lahaina. They walled it off and they're just getting rid of the material really fast. Like, that's suspicious. If we're going to argue about something, we should be arguing about with the sirens or the police chief and the blocking of the road. Those things should take precedent over what started the fire. And
here we go. Here's Pano. He says that he is on Maui and he's seen how the things played out and don't. And I even know some of the main characters that made the wrong choice. And more for their master's search. Hey, tell us more about that. I'm sorry if I called you a man or he, or I don't know. I'm not sure if you're a woman or a man, but tell us more about what's going on there, and I'll bring up the comments.
So one other thing real quick, I thought you'd find this funny. I pointed out to people too, just in trying to be objective about fires. There are 33,700 fires cataloged in the United States as of the weekend of the fire in Maui. 33,700 just in the United States. That's at a 10-year low. And around the world, we also have tens of thousands of fires. These are normal. Some of them are not natural, but a lot of them are natural. Fires are good for forests. A lot of the problem is we build homes in places where hurricanes hit and where fires burn. So then our homes get destroyed and we blame it on some kind of climate change or energy weapons, when it's really just we're not taking care of the forest, or we don't recognize that, hey, we built our house in the ocean, so there's water in the living room because we live in the ocean. You know, people that live on these little artificial fingers of St. Pete Beach where I'm from. Oh my God, why did it flood? Because you live below sea level in the ocean. That's why it flooded. It's not because of energy weapons. So I looked up all those fires and I thought, okay, so this is important information for context. And I've had people tell me, well, Ryan, you know, there's 33,700 fires. Those were all tests for the directed energy weapons. And I'm at the point now where you are. I don't know how to respond to that. Yeah, all wildfires are just laser weapons tests now. All of them. You know,
nature doesn't nature anymore, Ryan.
No, she doesn't.
Nature just doesn't do nature. No. You know, it's always some other thing going on. It's always extraterrestrials, it's aliens, it's dudes, it's the government, it's the deep state. I think that's the most annoying thing about the community at the moment. And again, it's not my audience that I'm saying this to. I'm saying to the community as a whole, is that things just don't happen anymore. is there's always some kind of someone's always has an explanation for anything bad that happens.
What about those? Okay, so we should probably address two very quickly, the 15-minute city, smart city things that people kept bringing up, right? So I did like literally 8 seconds of research. Literally, it was like 8 seconds. I just typed in Maui Smart City, conference. It pops up, and I see Maui, and then I also see New York and a bunch of other places. And I posted this on my Facebook page. New York is holding the same digital government summit that Maui was supposed to hold. I don't know if they're still going to hold it. And I asked people, does that mean New York is about to be dude because they're holding a digital government summit? I mean, places like Glasgow, Scotland, it's already a smart city. They didn't burn it down. There are plenty of places all over the world that have already turned into smart cities. They didn't burn them down. There are plenty of places where people are voting. Here in Tucson, Arizona, people just voted down, I think is a positive thing, but they voted down to turn this into a 15-minute city. Does that mean we're going to be hit with a directed energy weapon? I had someone tell me that about Phoenix, Arizona, and I said, what proof do you have of that? They said, well, they're installing toll booths on the road. And I said, what does a toll booth have to do with anything? And they said, because they want to control where you're driving. I said, but it's not controlling where you're driving. They're just making you pay to drive on other roads they built. What does that have to do with directed energy weapons? And then apparently I'm a Fed and I'm covering the truth up. It's just like, there are plenty of places that are Portland, smart city, Seattle. Like there's all kinds of these things happening all over the world. Just because there's one thing happening in Maui when the fires happen doesn't mean that it is not a correlation. That's a fallacy. That is wrong. And we need to stop believing that stuff because it takes away again from the real substance of all of the other inconsistencies that we've thus far discussed tonight.
Yeah, Noble Truth brings up something really interesting too, is the ritual aspect around all of this stuff. That's another thing that people claim with any of these disasters or a celebrity death, like you've seen, is a ritual. It's a ritual to Amun Ra, the sun god, right? If it burns and they die in a burning death, it's a ritual to Amun Ra. Which I think there are some strange deaths that seem really symbolic, but all of them, I don't know. I think people just regularly die, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, funny thing you bring that up, or the listener there brings that up, is because tonight on The Secret Teachings, the show goes on at 10 p.m. Pacific at groundzero.radio. I'm doing a show called Burned Out Man, Burn the Man, Save the Witch. And my point on the show is I don't have the answers. I don't know, but it's kind of interesting. Like Jimmy Buffett died Friday. Saturday, the day of Saturn, you have this inundation of Burning Man. Sunday, the day of the sun, you have this electric zoo festival that turns into chaos in New York City. And then Monday, you have the death of the Smash Mouth singer. So you have these two festivals that erupt into chaos, sandwiched by these two celebrity deaths. And then you also had Travis Scott on Friday, who was, the guy that was on the stage at the last big festival disaster at Astroworld. He just announced that this weekend, same time as this other stuff was going on, that he's going to come back he's got a new tour called Utopia, and it's going to open up the new world. That's how they're promoting it. So like all those things are interesting, but like I propose to my audience, a lot of it is just the algorithmic cycle of the news. One celebrity dies, another celebrity dies. Suddenly it's a pattern. Suddenly that's where the algorithm goes. That's where the news takes you. People don't give a damn about somebody that gets trampled at a festival or gets, they get mudded in at a festival. No, who cares? Because the news told you to care. So because people are told to care about Burning Man, suddenly this other festival makes the news. And then those things go away and we'll have another news cycle with other things we're told to care about. There's different angles and ways to look at this. There is something weird about last weekend, but also a lot of it is just the algorithmic, I call it the algorithmic cycle of the news. Plus, I want to add one other thing very quickly. The middle of Burning Man is also, it's August 31st, and that's actually a ritual, an actual holiday or holy day to the goddess Hecate we were talking about earlier. And it's the inversion of the Ides of August, August 13th, which is a festival for the goddess Diana. And during that festival, it's called the Festival of Torches, and they have it on a lake. And the rock or the symbol, interestingly enough, of Diana and Hecate is the black rock. So where did they have Burning Man? Black Rock Desert. They had it. It's a dried up lake bed, and it's also Burning Man. So like Festival of Torches. So like there's those interesting correlations to these ancient Roman festivals or ancient this or that festivals and mythologies. And that's what I do for my show. I do that a lot. But I also tell people it doesn't necessarily mean anything. A lot of times it's just how things unfold. It's not a conspiracy, but it is interesting.
Yeah, Jesse James brought up apparently gematria, blue equals 40, CERN equals 40, pain equals 40. Gematria is really interesting. But really you can kind of make anything that you want to make out of gematria.
And there's different, there's Hebrew gematria, there's Greek gematria, there's English gematria. Marty Leeds, I don't know if you ever talked to Marty Leeds, but he has his own, the septenary cipher. There's all kinds of different, like in one form of gematria, the name Jesus might mean one thing, in another form it means something different, like the numerical value. So you can, derive whatever you want. I think it's interesting and important that you can derive whatever you want from it. Because if the Greek isn't working out, you can just go to the Hebrew. If that ain't working out, just go to the English, just until you can get that 666.
Yeah. The 6 or the 11. Yeah, anyone dying before their time in Hollywood is suspicious to me. They have the best medicine, holistic or shaman, etc. Look at Magic Johnson or Stephen Hawking's. When they want them to live, they do. Well, a lot of these people die from overdoses, from drug overdoses, because they're overly medicated. It's what Prince died of. It's what Michael Jackson died of. That's what a lot of celebrities inevitably die of, or drug overdoses.
I mean,
being overprescribed.
That's another one of those things. Like, how many people living outside of the county of Los Angeles also died this weekend? Just some old lady or some old guy, or maybe some young kid overdosed on pills. Like, their deaths don't matter, but because they happened within LA County, symbolically, because Jimmy Buffett dies or because someone else died, then suddenly it's a conspiracy. It's like, how many other people died today? 1,700 people died today from preventable heart disease, according to the CDC. Is that all ritual? No. But if Jimmy Buffett dies, it's a ritual. That's the weird thing to me, Ryder.
It is people they pick and choose. Jesse James says gematria is the only way to figure out the real truth of words and mathematics behind. I mean, I agree. Gematria is very interesting, but I think the problem with gematria is nobody knows what it means. Yeah, you can come up with all these correlating numbers and stuff, but no one can seem to really know what any of that means.
And it can, because there's different kinds, and I agree too. I think it's important, it's significant, it has value, but to what extent? And I actually wrote a whole book. I have a whole book called Occult Arcana. It's about, I don't know, that thick. It's an enormous 600 plus page book, and I talk about gematria in the book. And it's like, if you're talking about magic, if you're talking about rituals, if you're talking about, numerology, if you're talking about symbolism, mythology, things like that, a lot of it also boils down to the practitioner. Like, if I wanted to create some kind of, personally, if I wanted to create some kind of sigil, or if I, like, look at my t-shirt here, I have a tree of life with a ladder with 7 rungs, and I have a serpent on the tree. It says TST, the secret teachings, and it's all kinds of symbols in the tree. Like, people could look at this shirt and they could look at the symbols and then try to, internet sleuth what they think I believe because of the symbols on my shirt.
You're a Freemason, Ryan.
Yeah, right. Exactly. A Freemason, Illuminati, Dorito eating Mountain Dew drinker. So, but to me, my intention is to just present, interesting things or images to really get people thinking. So if your intention with gematria was to have a word equal, 500 for whatever reason, in another form of gematria, someone could find it to mean 666, and then suddenly your intention to have it mean one thing is overshadowed because some internet sleuth thinks it means something else. Like, intention matters, and that is an important piece of context when we're talking about more occult themed things, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. I've been looking into Elena Blavatsky and Edgar Casey a lot on my show for studying these UFO cults, because it seems like a lot of these cults derive from Edgar Casey's work, some of the later cults, and directly from Elena Blavatsky as well. Have you looked into Edgar Casey and Elena Blavatsky? I mean, I'm sure you have because of your show and your the books that you've written. What do you think of? Let's start with Edgar Casey. We got a few more minutes here. What do you think of Edgar Casey?
Personally, my opinion is I've not read a lot of Edgar Casey. I'm open to what he wrote and what he talked about. I think that what we know and collectively, in pop culture think of Edgar Casey is more so what people have created for him as an image, more so than what he actually wrote or said. Same thing with Nikola Tesla. People are like, oh, Nikola Tesla was talking to aliens. That's what his friend said. It's like, no, if you read what he actually wrote, his friend had worked in a newspaper, said it was like he was talking to aliens because he was so advanced in terms of what he was developing and theorizing about. Like is different than was. Big difference. And it's the same thing with Edgar Casey. That's what I would logically conclude, having not read a lot of Edgar Casey. In terms of Blavatsky, I have her books. They're very advanced for occult students. I wouldn't recommend just grabbing those if you want to start reading about the occult or whatever. There's absolutely very credible, interesting, powerful information in them. But like a lot of occult studies, whether you're reading Levi or is it Levi, Eliphas Levi, Levi, if you're reading The Magus by Francis Barrett, if you don't understand the subtleties or the symbolism of, or the metaphors that a lot of these authors write in, you'll take things to be literal that aren't literal. And the best example of this is there's a lot of books where older authors give these examples of how to perform certain rituals. And they'll say things like, you have to get a virgin kid and you have to sacrifice the virgin kid. And people, oh my God, it's human sacrifice. Look, oh my God, QAnon's in these grimoires. It's like, no, kid meant baby goat. So you would, I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying I'm going to sacrifice a baby goat, but I'm saying that kid, a virgin kid, means an innocent, pure baby, youthful goat. It doesn't mean a child who's been kidnapped by the Illuminati or something. And it's the same thing with like when they say you have to, like if you read Revelation, here's another great example. Read Revelation, the red dragon gives the beast his power. Okay, well, speaking in terms of psychology and the body and human development and introspection, the red dragon is your ego, the beast is the animal self. And in order to achieve some form of enlightenment, or in order to become more consciously aware and connected to source, you have to slay the red dragon and collect the treasure of wisdom the dragon always guards. And then that helps you to overcome the animal self, which is like the lion in the Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum. And then, you begin to understand things on another level because you've abandoned the ego and you've collected the gold of wisdom, or the wisdom of gold, or the alchemical stone of the alchemist. So those are things that, like, you have to understand when you read Blavatsky. She's not writing in a way that's like intending to be easy to understand. So there's a tremendous amount of symbolism and metaphor. And in order to even kind of process that, especially for her work, to answer your question, you really have to be well-versed on a lot of other much more basic occult themes. So, I mean, if you're interested in that kind of thing, I think there's definitely value there. You'd probably want to read The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly Hall, or read his How to Understand Your Bible book, even if you're not a Christian. Or read, The History of Magic by Eliphas Levi. A lot of stuff in there's kind of garbage, but a lot of stuff in there's good. There's all sorts of easier books if you want to dive into that. But to answer your question, in terms of Blavatsky, it's a lot of metaphor and a lot of symbolism, more so than it is literality.
Do you think that she was legit, though?
I would counter and ask you, but what do you mean by legit?
Like the things that she experienced, the channeling that she would claim to do. You think that was legit?
I'm always skeptical of channeling. I'm always skeptical. I don't really, as a rule of thumb, I just don't trust channelers. I don't care if it's Blavatsky. I don't care if it's somebody at a conference. But that also doesn't mean that there can't be value in the things that those people write. Because, I mean, I can tell you Blavatsky's work is a lot more legitimate than Ishmael Perez or Dave Wilcock. So, but that doesn't also mean that everything she wrote was, she's a human being. She made mistakes. She probably was driven a little bit by her ego, and she might have inflated things that she believed. But then again, I can also add to this, like, I don't ever talk about this, but I've had, since I was younger, I've had experiences where I've seen things that otherwise, aren't necessarily there. Even more recently, I've heard things that aren't necessarily being heard by other people. I'm not delusional or crazy. I don't know what those things were. It could have been anything. I mean, there's technology today to literally beam signals for advertisements in people's heads from billboards from 50 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet away.
Yeah.
It could be technology. It could be my subconscious. It could be a little angel and demon. It could be something else. It could be something supernatural. I mean, obviously, if I can't explain it in the physical world, it is supernatural. So, like, I've had experiences, and if I wrote a book about my experiences, I would probably sound pretty wackadoo. So a lot of it is how you word it too, and a lot of people don't care how they word it. They just like, because the words that sell are channeling and God and lioness, priestess, warrior, princess,
Arcturian, Pleiadians, Zeta Reticuli,
Dark Omega, Alpha, Epsilon fleet, that kind of crap.
No, I'm right there with you. I've had some really strange experiences growing up and throughout my teenage years, and some experiences into my adult years, but I don't pretend to know what those things were. Right. I don't pretend to know. And honestly, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care to know what they were. I think things like that, we're not meant to know what it is. We're not supposed to know, but there's so many people that want to know so badly that they're willing to listen to anybody that's going to tell them about it, right? Yeah, they're going to go to an internet psychic that says that they can channel their higher self and tell them exactly what they experienced. No, you can't. I guarantee you, Ryan, if you went to one of these internet psychics or one of these internet channeler people and told them about your experience, they would say, "Oh, you were abducted by the gray aliens from Zeta Reticuli, and you were taken aboard the ship, and you were experimented on, and they jerked you off with a machine and got your semen and all this stuff, and they interjected the thoughts and ideas into your mind, screen memories into your mind, and you got all this missing time, and you need to be regressed."
Sounds like every alien story I've ever heard.
But that's the first thing that they jump to, right? Yeah. They jump to extraterrestrials, especially people that want to get regressed in this community, right? If they even have any kind of inkling that something weird happened to them one night, or they had a weird dream, right? That it was automatically aliens. And if they go to a regressionist that's a part of this community, I guarantee you every time they will find aliens and extraterrestrials.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the idea of the psychic who's like, all right, so I'm getting that you have a mother and a father. Is that true? I do have a mom and a dad, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah, the cold reading from psychics.
Yeah. But hey, you know what? I've met what I considered to be 2 in my entire life, and that's not a lot because I've done this a long time, 13 years, but I've met 2 people I believe to be legitimate psychics. How I define psychic might be different than some of your listeners, but I know people that 2 people I've met. One of them is a friend of mine who I think are legitimate psychics. And the difference, it's the same for both of them. And they're from different parts of the country. The same thing that they share in common is they don't really sell themselves. And they don't just take any client, and they don't, a lot of times they help people for free, and they back out of readings because they're just too energetically drained. And again, they don't like sell themselves. So like that's usually the difference between a legitimate psychic and someone who's like can find aliens and everything. I'm getting that you have an epidermis. Is that true? Do you have lungs? I'm getting, that kind of thing. There's a huge difference.
I'm sensing that you have 2 extraterrestrial guides. One lives on Andromeda Planet 7, another in the Pleiadian star system, Planet 9. And they're here to help save you and ascend you into the 5th dimension, the next evolutionary level above human in heaven. Just sit and meditate for 20 hours a day. Don't do anything to better your life. Just sit back and enjoy the show. Just change your thought process. No action is required. Just sit and think yourself into good situations.
And while you're sitting there thinking, go to Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and it's going to be $300. You know that.
Yeah, got to pay out for those.
Hey, listen,
yeah.
I saw somebody real quick. I went to the 5D conference. Do you know what the 5D conference is?
In Vegas, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So first of all, the guy that runs that is a Class A piece of trash. Firsthand experience. He's disgusting and gross. Always filling up on all the hot women, but then when the older women come in, it's no more love and light. He don't want to hug the older women, just the young women. Let me give you some love and some light. That's how this guy is. But I saw this woman, one of these psychics at this conference, and I have a video of it. I don't know where it's at. I have to find it in my hard drive, but I have a video. This woman was giving people psychic readings. Okay, Ryder. And I look over, and here's how this no joke is how the psychic reading went. She sits in a chair right here. You sit in a chair right here. She then takes her foot and she massages with her foot your private parts, and then says, "Can you feel the energy? Can you feel the energy?" And then proceeds to give you that random, do you have a mother-father thing? And I saw the same thing. That was a woman doing it. I seen a guy do that.
I can feel it. I can feel it.
Yeah. The energy is really building. And then I saw a guy do that at Contact one time. He's like, I swear to God, dude, there's a woman on the table, and conventionally she's pretty attractive, young lady, and this guy's like creepy and old, and he's just like, he's like basically grabbing her breasts, and he's like, "So do you feel the energy?" People on video can see. He's like, can you feel that? And then the hands between the legs. Can you feel me move the energy between your? And I'm like, I felt like I'm being sexually assaulted. I'm not even on the table. It's just, it's so ridiculously just disgusting. By the way, I got banned from ESETI because I pointed some of that stuff out, but that's another story.
Yeah, I know a little bit about that, but that's something that Preston Nichols would do as well. He would jerk people off. Like the Montauk boys. That's what he would do to get their memories back. That's literally what he would do, bro.
I know.
He would take them into a room and jerk them off so that they can receive their memories.
So it's literally a circle jerk it's a con. And that's why they name all these conferences. That's why they're like Alien Con, UFO Con. At least that part's not consumer fraud. At least that part's that part's honest. Yeah, because James Gillen has a secret room upstairs on top of one of the places where he takes the women to do vibration treatments. And I don't want to know what those vibration treatments entail personally, but I can only imagine.
Oh man, vibrational treatments, not vibration, vibrator treatments.
Vibrator treatments. Yeah, he's got magic wands up there and all kinds of stuff.
Well, Ryan, thanks so much for coming on, brother. I really appreciate the conversation. I had a lot of fun here tonight. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. Everyone in the chat, how's it going, Jenna Banana? Good to see you. So let people know where they can find you. You got a show on tonight. What time is that show, and where can they watch it and listen?
Yeah, so there's no video. It's just old school audio. groundzero.radio, and groundzero.radio. It'll be 7 to 10 Pacific is Clyde Lewis, and then I'll actually be on his show a little bit tonight. And then as soon as that show's over, 10 p.m. Pacific to midnight is my show. That's Monday through Friday, but you can find the free archive by searching The Secret Teachings on any radio or podcast player, or by simply going to my website, thesecretteachings.info. There's an archive, an RSS feed, etc. And if you want to subscribe, because it's free, but if you want to subscribe and get rid of the advertisements, you go to aftermath.media, which is the network website, and they have a bunch of subscription packages there. But otherwise, you can listen to the show for free Monday through Friday, secretteachings.info, groundzero.radio.
Thanks so much, Ryan. The links to Ryan's information will be in the description of this video. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button to help the channel in the algorithms, wherever it is that you're listening. Be sure to hit the bell icon as well for notifications. I'll be back on Thursday with Doomsday Cult, UFO Doomsday Cult Series Part 9. We're going to be covering a cult called Antrovis. I'll see you guys on Thursday, and then I'll be back on Saturday with Wayne Steiger. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. Appreciate you guys. See you guys next time.